Welcome to Horseshoe Politics. Today's date is October 16th, 2020, and the 2020 United States presidential election is now just 18 days away. It is so close by, it is almost here. This is the final stretch. If this were a football game, we'd be in the final few minutes of the fourth quarter now. Just a few more weeks, and this will all be over. And it'll be really interesting to see if the predictions that I've made in my prediction videos, it'll be interesting to see how accurate they were, because I haven't done any of these predictions before. This is the first election cycle where I'm actually making my own predictions for how I think the results will turn out. So it'll be interesting to see how close I was to the actual result in my predictions. So just a few more weeks and I'll finally be able to see how good I was at predicting these things. I'll see if I was spot on or completely off. But what I wanted to talk about in this video was the state of the 2020 presidential election, what things are looking like right now for that, and I would also more specifically like to talk about two events that have taken place just in the past couple days and how I think that affects the 2020 presidential election and whether or not that'll make any major difference in the outcome of this presidential election. The first topic that I'd like to talk about in this video just happened yesterday, in fact, and this was the presidential town halls that took place yesterday. Both presidential candidates, both Donald Trump and Joe Biden, they each did their own presidential town hall yesterday at the exact same time but on different channels. So, Joe Biden, he did his town hall on ABC News, and his town hall went from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Time and 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So his town hall lasted for 1.5 hours on ABC News, and Trump, on the other hand, his town hall just went from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time or 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So his town hall was only 1 hour long. Compare that to Joe Biden's 1.5 hours. So Joe Biden had a longer town hall than Donald Trump did yesterday. But unlike Joe Biden, Donald Trump's town hall was on three different channels. It was on NBC, MSNBC, and CNBC. So Donald Trump's town hall was on all the different NBCs. But here's the thing. Despite the fact that Donald Trump's town hall was on three different channels, Joe Biden's actually got more. Joe Biden's ABC town hall got around 700,000 more views overall than Trump's town hall did. Trump's town hall in total got around 13.5 million views, and the majority of those views were actually from the NBC channel. Out of the 13.5 million views he got, around 11 million of those views were just from NBC, and the other 2.5 million were from NBC and not NBC, MSNBC and CNBC. So most of the views were from NBC. That's the news channel out of all the NBCs that usually get the most amount of views. So that would make sense. But I think that this is really interesting in that it tells us that more people watched Biden's town hall than Trump's town hall, even when Biden was only on one channel. In my opinion, this is a good sign that Joe Biden will win the popular vote of this presidential election, and this goes right along with my prediction that I made earlier. I was already sure that Joe Biden would win this election, but I was really sure from the beginning that he would win the popular vote. Even in 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote against Trump, and Joe Biden's doing much better this time around than Hillary Clinton did 4 years ago. Also, I found it interesting that both candidates did their town halls at the exact same time yesterday. They both had their town halls start at 7 p.m. Central or 8 p.m. Eastern. So they both started their town halls at the exact same time, but one finished later than the other. Joe Biden finished his town hall later than Donald Trump did. Originally, yesterday was supposed to be dedicated to a presidential debate, but Donald Trump canceled because he didn't want to do a virtual debate. Originally, they were going to have three debates for this election cycle. The first one happened 2 weeks ago, September 29th. There's also the vice presidential debate that happened last week, October 7th. But the second presidential debate was supposed to happen yesterday, October 15th. But in early October, you guys probably all know this, Trump got COVID-19. And because of that, because of the fact that he might have had it at the first debate, and because the October 1st date when he first tested positive for the virus, that fell within the 2 week period, the quarantine period of the October 15th debate. And because of that, Biden was really hesitant to do the debate with Trump in person if Trump still had the virus, because the doctors recommend that if you get the virus, you avoid contact with others for at least 2 weeks until you recover from the virus. But the debate, the yesterday's debate that was supposed to happen, that fell within the 2 week period that Trump was supposed to quarantine for, and it was unclear just a few days ago whether or not Trump would recover in time for that debate. I think now he's fully recovered. I'm pretty sure he tested negative for the virus as of now, but a few days ago it was unclear whether or not he would still have the virus by yesterday. So Biden said that he will only agree to do the debate if the debate was done virtually, because he was worried about Trump giving him the virus or Trump giving other people the virus around him. So he thought that the best way to avoid spreading the virus, because Trump already had it, was to do a virtual format for this debate. But then Trump said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm only doing the debate if it's in person. And then Joe Biden said, no, I'm not doing it in person. So the debate basically just got canceled. So now we're only having one more presidential debate, which is happening next week on October 22nd. So instead of doing a debate where they both candidates would have confronted each other directly, they both did their own town halls on different channels where they get asked different questions and they respond to them. And a lot of the questions were pretty critical for both of these candidates. I saw several questions that were pretty critical of Trump, several questions that were pretty critical of Biden. So it was interesting analyzing how each presidential candidate reacted to the questions that were asked to them, especially when the questions were pretty tough questions. They weren't really like easy questions. A lot of them were like hardball questions that really had to test their limits to how well they were as speakers, as debaters. Even though this wasn't an actual debate, I guess you still got to see their thought process and how they responded to questions, and you got a good idea of what their overall opinions are on different issues. But I still think that an actual debate would have been better in terms of seeing what each candidate would have thought and seeing how each candidate would respond to each other directly. But at the same time, we all saw the debate 2 weeks ago. That did not go as well as I was hoping it would go, to say the least. That went horribly. They both kept interrupting each other. So in some ways, the format that happened yesterday was actually better in that you don't have constant interruptions because it's just one candidate answering questions from the audience. So you could see Donald Trump answer questions from the audience. You could see Joe Biden answer questions from the audience. And there was no interruptions. You could just hear the candidate talk because the other candidate was not there to interrupt and make corrections to the statements. But what I really did not like was the fact that they were at the exact same time. I chose to watch a bit of each town hall. I started by watching Joe Biden's town hall for the first 30 minutes, then I went to Trump's town hall for the second 30 minutes, and then after Trump's town hall ended, I went back to Biden's town hall for the last 30 minutes. So I had to switch between Biden's and Trump's yesterday, but it would have been a lot nicer if they were both at the exact same time. But people basically had to choose which town hall they wanted to watch, whether they wanted to watch Trump's or whether they wanted to watch Biden's. And that's why I think that this is actually a good indicator of how this election could go, because of the fact that you have to choose between one. Just like on election day, you can't vote for both candidates, you have to choose between one of the two, or you can vote third party, but most people don't do that. So yesterday you had to choose which uh, town hall you wanted to watch, and I guess more people chose Joe Biden's than Donald Trump's, which could signal the fact that Donald Trump might lose the popular vote like he did in 2016. In all likelihood, that's what I think will happen. 538.com gives Trump less than a 10% chance of winning the popular vote as of now. So I can say with almost complete certainty that Joe Biden will win the popular vote in this presidential election. I also am pretty sure that he'll win the Electoral College vote and become the 46th president, but we still have to see. I'm not quite as sure about that as I am about the popular vote, but I still think Joe Biden has a really good chance of winning this presidential election. Speaking to Joe Biden, the second topic I'd like to talk about in this video involves his son, Hunter Biden. This topic that I'm about to talk about, it is really controversial and I actually don't know too much about it, so I will frequently be referencing a Wikipedia page in this section of the video in order to be able to do this segment properly and not say any false information. But basically, this entire controversy rose around 2 days ago, and it is a continuation of the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Ukraine controversy from around a year ago, from second half of 2019. This controversy originally arose when a lot of people made a series of allegations against Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, where they claimed that they were involved in corrupt activities while Hunter Biden was serving for the Ukrainian gas company called Burisma. So this issue is actually what eventually led to the Trump-Ukraine scandal, and that is what led to his impeachment by the House of Representatives in December of 2019, which is around 10 months ago at this point. And basically the reason why Trump was impeached was because of complaints raised against him saying that he was trying to abuse his presidential powers in order to get a foreign power to interfere in the 2020 presidential election by trying to dig up dirt on Joe Biden. So, this is why Trump got impeached. The Democrats in the House said that Trump shouldn't be doing this. He shouldn't be using his presidential powers for soliciting foreign election interference. And because of that, well, really because the Democrats control the House, Trump was able to get impeached in the House, but because the Republicans control the Senate, the Republicans aren't going to vote out the president of their own political party, so Trump got acquitted in the Senate. So he got impeached, but he didn't actually get kicked out of office. But this controversy, after the impeachment trials ended, it was forgotten about for several months, but just 2 days ago, on October 14th, this whole topic arose again because of the New York Post. If you guys don't know, the New York Post is a more right leaning, more conservative news outlet, so it would make sense that they would try to go after Biden more than Trump. But this article that the New York Post published 2 days ago, it claimed to have emails suggesting that Hunter Biden provided an opportunity for a top Ukrainian executive at the Burisma Holdings natural gas firm to meet with Joe Biden. Biden obviously denied that meeting took place, but apparently, here's the funny thing, these emails were found on a MacBook Pro that was actually damaged by water at a Delaware computer repair shop. And naturally, this article was met with a lot of skepticism, especially with the fact that the New York Post is a more conservative leaning news outlet, so there would be more of an incentive for them to attack Biden. But this has been a really controversial issue overall. I've seen so much division from both sides. This isn't the only aspect to this whole situation, though. There's another aspect to this entire situation that made the whole issue even more heated, even more divisive. And that is the steps that both Twitter and Facebook took in order to limit the amount of people that read that New York Post article. Basically, they took steps to limit the amount of people that would click on the article or that would actually like read through the whole article. And one of the things Twitter did, was they marked the article as potentially unsafe. I guess the people who work at Twitter and Facebook, they thought that the article was filled with false information, so they decided to take steps to limit readership of that article. But this gained lots of controversy online because people were angry that Twitter and Facebook were just stepping in to limit readership of this article. A lot of people were angry about that. They were saying that the Twitter and Facebook employees need to stay out of it. And in response to this entire incident, the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, actually apologized. And he actually came out and said that the blocking of links without any context, without any explanation, and he said that that was an unacceptable practice and that that is something that should not be done. He said that no links should be blocked without a valid reason. So this whole issue is really heated, and this has been going on for over a year. We've already had an entire impeachment session over this. We've already had Trump get impeached by the House, but acquitted by the Senate. I thought that was it. I thought after Trump got acquitted, we would stop hearing about this, but I guess it's not over yet. I guess we have to hear more about this. I really don't think that this whole issue, this whole controversy will play much, if any, role at all in the results of the 2020 presidential election. I still think that regardless of how this controversy plays through, I still think that Joe Biden will easily win against Donald Trump. This is, I guess, another attempt at an October surprise. If you guys don't know, an October surprise is basically when a last minute scandal pops up regarding one of the two major presidential candidates in an attempt, usually it's intentional, in an attempt to try to lower their chance of winning the presidential election that's just in the next month. The term is October surprise because usually in almost every single presidential election and even sometimes midterm elections, there's some sort of major controversy, major issue that a lot of people might not be happy with, some sort of major scandal, in fact, that a lot of people might not be happy with, and a lot of the time it is intentionally brought up in order to try to lower the chances of a certain presidential candidate winning. 2016, that was the Access Hollywood tapes, and I guess this time around, this whole situation that I just talked about, that was an attempt at an October surprise to try to lower Joe Biden's chances of winning.